It's gonna be a juicy one, y'all.
She said, do you love me? I tell her only partly. I only love my bed and my mom, I'm sorry. 50 dub, I even got it tatted on me. 81, they'll bring the crashers to the party.
What up, hey guys? It's gonna be a little story time. So if y'all saw my last video, I like no, I didn't. Never mind, I never posted that video. For the past 2 to 3 months, I was a waitress at this restaurant that I'm not gonna name because I'm not throwing no shade. I'm not about to get sued, none of that. I ain't talking about it. I ain't even gonna say what the name is, y'all. I ain't doing it. This little local restaurant by my house. I did it on the weekends. It was just like a little side hustle of mine because I already had a job. I was a peer mentor at like with UCLA. I'm a peer mentor. And then, which I did tell you guys that in my last video. I told you guys I was a peer mentor and I was a waitress. Yeah, so I was doing 2 jobs, you know, your girl was hustling. Every day I'm hustling. This waitress, this was my first time ever being a waitress. I worked in customer service before, y'all. So when I was 13, I was like a cashier at this amusement park. And then like maybe 2 years later, I went back to that amusement park and I just worked there for like the summer or whatever. And I was a ride operator. I almost killed somebody. That's another story time for y'all. Other than that, I've only had like student worker jobs. It's my first time ever like being a waitress, like at a restaurant or whatever the case may be. And the pay was nice, I ain't gonna lie. It was nothing like extreme. Like I wasn't getting paid like $15 an hour. No, y'all, I was getting paid $10 an hour, but I was getting paid in cash and I had my tips. So for like a college student, like it was a lot for me. And what happened was I worked here because I was with the bae. And we had went to go eat and he like eats there all the time. And so I just saw that they had a help wanted sign one day. And I had went to the front where I went to go pay and I was like, hey, you guys still want help? Like I'm so down. And she was just like, oh, what days are you free? And I was like, usually on the weekends because I do go to school and I work on Wednesdays and all this other stuff. And then so she was like, oh yeah, you're hired. I was like, bitch, what? You don't want my resume or nothing? It was like everything happened real quick. She was like, okay, come in next Friday. And I was like, oh. I end up getting hired on the spot. I come in the next week on a Friday, like she told me to, and I work. It was a lot of work, I'm not gonna lie, because it's like this little local spot that's like not anywhere like too like busy, but it gets really, really busy. So like it wasn't anything like too formal, like if you were at Chili's and you have your waitress and then you have your host and then you have your like busboy. It wasn't anything like I would say as professional as that. Like it was a professional setting, but it wasn't like that because it was like a small little local spot. So like I would take like the phone orders and I would do the cash register and I would just wait tables and I would bust my tables. And sometimes I would even prep the plates, not cook or anything, but like put the food onto the plates and stuff like that. And so it was like I was doing multiple jobs that like one restaurant gives to separate people, but it was just me. And I was usually the only waitress. During my hours of working, I was usually the only waitress working. And I started getting tired like maybe after like a month of doing it. And I would say it wasn't necessarily I was tired of working because like I said, the coins were really nice, y'all. The coins was good. I loved the money. But I was also like a student first. Like my #1 priority was always school. I wasn't about to mess up in school to get my little coins because, you know, girls trying to get them big dollars. So yeah. So I was a student first. So obviously I'm a full-time student at UCLA and it's my first year at UCLA, even though it's like my 3rd quarter or whatever the case may be. Plus I had my other job. So it was just starting to get a little bit too much for me because the only days I had off, which were Friday to Sunday, I was working 5 hours. So like I would come home, go to sleep, wake up, and then like 2 hours or 3 hours later, it would be time for me to go back to work. And so that was literally my whole weekends. And then during the weekdays, it was like I had school, I would come home, and then my one day off, which were gonna be Wednesdays, I had to go to work. And I don't drive, I'm a commuter. My bus rides take me all day, not only to get to school and come home from school, but also to get to work and come home from work because my job is all the way like 2 hours away on the bus from where I live. And my school is about an hour and a half away from where I live. And so just became like very like mentally and physically exhausted from all of the work. Oh, I'm sorry. So I was just like, ooh, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I want to quit. So I was like, let me like rack up a couple of checks and make like a certain amount and like put it in my savings or whatever, and then I'm gonna quit or whatever the case may be. So every time I said that I was gonna put in my 2 weeks notice, I felt like every week it was just like, nah, don't do it, don't do it. Kind of grew like a little weird relationship with my boss in a way, where she like confided into me about like her life, and she was just telling me like, you know, how she invested so much into this business and how it's brand new and stuff like that. And she didn't have a lot of help, and she was like an older woman, and like I felt like I was very like helpful in a way, because I gave her like, you know, the days off. Sometimes she wouldn't even come in. Like I know for like maybe about a month she was never there when I was there, so I was just like working and she wasn't there. So like, you know, I'm glad she was able to have her little weekends off, because she was literally doing everything I did by herself like all day. So I was like, damn, that really freaking sucks. And so like I just kind of felt bad, and I was just like, okay, you know, like I was just always like, I'll stay for a bit, I'll stay for a bit longer, I'll stay for a bit longer. And so it just got to the point where it's like I wasn't even staying for myself, or I wasn't staying for the coins. Like the coins was nice, it was a little thing, but I was just doing it because it's like I really wanted to help the lady out. And so like eventually it got to the point where I did finally put in a 2 weeks notice, and even then it was kind of like, it was like a 2 weeks notice to not work on the weekends, because she was like, oh, can you work on Thursdays then? I was like, oh. I just made up some like elaborate story about my life and how some other things came up, and that's why I wouldn't be able to work, which is true. And so she was like, oh, can you work Thursdays then? I was like, sure. And also during this job, y'all, like I realized that I can't stand people, specifically customers. Like, y'all, let me tell you, don't understand. Like, I feel like I got like a whole nother perspective of what it's like to be in customer service, and I feel like I became such a better customer in my everyday life when I go to restaurants, or even when I go to Target or anything like that. Like I became such a better customer because I get it now. Like I completely understand. Like there's multiple instances where I've had, and this, like I said, like I grew like physically and mentally just exhausted from everything. And so there was one instance where I was just like off day, like really bad day, like completely tired. Like I just had to do some essays. I had to, like, this was like maybe like towards the end of my winter quarter. I was exhausted, y'all. And so like I came to work, and I definitely feel like my exhaustion was like showing. I was just kind of like, I felt like I was a little bit more distant. I wasn't like, hey, welcome, but I was like, hey, can I help you? So that day I was just having an off day or whatever the case may be, but I don't feel like I was rude or like overly rude to anybody, because I've just never been that type of person. Even when I am having an off day, I don't feel like I'm necessarily a rude person. So the next day after that day, my boss had pulled me to the side, and she just showed me these 2 comments that I got on Yelp. And it was these 2 comments that were just kind of like, oh, she's very standoffish, she just seemed like she didn't want to be there, like she's this and she's that. And it was only 2, but one of the comments was just like, because I remember this female too, and she had the nerve to call a girl homophobic. Like, which was like, I remember, I'm gonna tell y'all what happened this day. So like I said, I was having a really off day, and I remember her. I do remember her too. And I was at the cash register, and she was coming up, she was walking up with her girl or whatever, and she was like looking at the menu, and I was just sitting there like, because the bitch was looking at the menu. So I was all like, okay, I'm gonna give her time, look at the menu. When she's ready, when she knows what she wants, then she gonna tell me. Let's just sitting there for a while. And then she like looks at me, and she's like, are you ready? And I was like, bitch, what am I ready? I'm waiting for you, girl. And so she's like, oh, okay, this is what I want. And I write it down. I'm like, okay, for sure. I'm like writing it. I'm like, okay, for sure. I go in the back, and I put on a little thing. When it's ready, I literally, cause it's like the cash register, but there's like a wall, because I'm kind of in the kitchen with a little window. So I literally leave outside the kitchen and go around to where the tables are, where people sit, to hand her bag. And in her comments, she said that I threw her bag at her. What? Like, I didn't even have to walk around the kitchen to bring you your bag. Like I could have just put it on the counter and been like, it's ready. There you go. All right, you got bye. Got up off my seat and walked all the way around and placed it on the table that you were sitting at. Like I didn't have to do that. I really didn't. Like no, it was not necessary for me. It wasn't in my job description. And so I remember, so she put that was one thing she put. And then another thing she put was that I forgot her beef, because I worked at a Jamaican spot. And then she's like, I forgot her beef patty. But I did forget her beef patty. And I remember she was like, oh, where's my beef patty? And I was like, oh shit, I'm sorry. And I ran to the kitchen, I put it in the little bag, and I was like, here you go. Over the counter this time. I wasn't about to walk back out the kitchen. And so she put in the comments that like, that I forgot her beef patty. I was just like, oh, okay. And then I went back and gave it to her. But it's like, what? Like, whatever. And so she said that. And all of those 3 instances made her come to the conclusion that I was homophobic. And so she was just like, you know, like Jamaicans, I know they have like this homophobic whatever. Not every Jamaican is homophobic, like what the fuck. And number 2, I'm not even Jamaican. So just because I'm a black girl working at a Jamaican spot doesn't make me Jamaican, so don't you sound stupid. Like, the other comment was just like, oh, I just felt like she was very standoffish and da-da-da-da. And so like for me, that was like, I hate human beings. Because I was literally just having an off day, and because I was having an off day, I had all these bad comments. And I know what you guys are gonna say.
Like when you work in customer service, like you need to just leave all one out at the door.
I don't feel like life is as easy as that. I don't feel like life is as easy as like, let me just leave all of my feelings, emotions, and personal things at the door and put on a smile so that you can be happy. And it's like, for me, it was like, that's when I was like, customer service, not my thing, not my thing, not my thing. There's been instances where like customers treat me like dog shit, y'all. Like I've had customers be very, very rude to me, and it's like they may just be having an off day, but it's not like I can go on Yelp and write a review on them. It's just like, you can't expect them to treat you like a human being because they're having an off day. But I'm expected to be happy and jolly-go-lucky no matter what. And then literally I did so much for this job. Like I remember after my grandfather's funeral, I literally like left the repast or whatever the case may be and went to work. Like when my mom was out here, because she doesn't live in the same state as I do. She was out here for the weekend. Like I went to dinner with her, and I ended up leaving, getting my food to go and leaving so I can make it to work. So it was just like a lot of things. I felt like I was missing out on a lot of like time that I could be spending with my friends or with my family, or just like me time, or to just sleep and relax or do homework. For what? To be called homophobic and told that I'm standoffish and to be yelled at. Like I said, like at that point I was just doing it just because I felt something for my boss. I just kind of felt like sympathy for her, and I just wanted to be there for her. And so I started working Thursdays or whatever, and she had called me one day and she asked me to work on a Monday, and I was like, oh. I was like, yeah, I'll come in after work. I mean, I'll come in after school. And so I came in after school to work on a Monday, and this was my last day, y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all why it was my last day. I'm working my butt off today, or whatever the case may be. I'm working my butt off, doing what I gotta do. The end of the day comes and she's giving me my money to pay. And so like basically when it comes to tips, like I get cash tips and I just put them in my pocket. And when I get tips on the card, I log them into like the little machine where people swipe their card, and then I write down how much I got in the cards on the back of my pad. That way at the end of the day, we calculate how much tips I've got on the card, and she gives it to me in cash. This particular day, so after the end of the day, she's giving me my money for the day, and we're calculating my tips. It came up to $47. So this is $47 only in the card tips. She's gonna tell me after we calculate my tips of $47, she's gonna tell me,
oh, there's this new law that's like, I get taxed for your tips, so I'm gonna have to take about 50% of the tips you get on your card.
I'm like, what? I was like, but again, y'all, I don't like confrontation. So like, as extra as I'm being right now, like I don't like confrontation. So I was just like,
okay, all right, for sure, whatever.
So out of that 47, she gave me $23. I got $47 in tips and she gave me $23, y'all. Like I was really counting on that $47. And so one table, just one table gave me $23 because it was a really, really big table. And I mean, no, they gave me $27. So one table, because it was a bunch of them, they gave me $27. That means I didn't even get the whole tip from one table. And so, girl, I don't know who she thought I was or who she didn't think I was, but you know, this undergraduate UCLA student definitely went home and did her little research or whatever. And I was literally a Google scholar. I Googled like, do people take tips because of taxes? I called Chili's and I called El Torito's, and I was like, oh, can I speak to a waitress? And they were like, oh yeah, like hello. They put a waitress on the phone. I was like, when people give you a car tips, do you get all of them? And they were like, yeah. And then I ended up calling my sister's friend's brother, because he's been a waitress like his whole life, y'all. And so I was like, do you get? He's like, no, I usually get all my taxes no matter what, and the only time that a company has taken taxes out of my pay is one time, and they only took 10%, but 50%, like that's not a thing. So this bitch played me. And so that's when I was like, it's real quiet for you right now, girl. Like I said, like at this point, I wasn't even working for myself. I was working because I felt sorry for you, and I was trying to be a good person, and I wanted you to have your days off, and I didn't want you to be stressed out. Boo. You're not about to play me for my coins. Like, I work literally for coins, and you're not about to play me for those coins. They know that I'm not working there anymore. I told them beforehand, before my next shift, because still I had the common courtesy to do that, even though they were chipping me. And on top of that, I had one of my cousins try to get a job there because she was really low on staff, because for some reason the cook just like went cold turkey, like MIA. We have no idea where that kid is. And I pray to God that they found him, because he was a really cool kid, and I just hope nothing bad happened to him. But so we were really low on staff, so I had my cousin try to get a job there, and she was trying to jip my cousin, and I was like, no, like we're not about to start this stuff. And I feel like maybe the business was starting to mess up, or she was losing some type of revenue because she was losing a cook, or whatever the case may be, but that is not about to reflect my coin. I'm never going back to being a waitress. Like, maybe in the future I'll try to be like a bartender or something, but I just realized customer service is not my thing. Like, I feel like I have the personality for it to an extent, but not for that. Maybe at least not for that type of customer service. Like, not doing that. Like, I can't. It's quiet. So yeah, I no longer work there. I wish the business the best of luck, and one of the reasons why I didn't want to say the name of the business is because I wish it no harm. I don't want any badness going to the business or anybody looking at the business bomb, because the food is really bomb. It was just, experience I had, and I get it. I still respect my boss completely and 100%. It's fine. So that is the end of this story time. If you guys want any more story times, or just give this video a thumbs up so I can know that you guys like story times from me. And just give this video a thumbs up. If you're not a part of the A gang, join the A gang. There's no better gang than the A gang. And thank you guys so much for watching my video, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling.